They say you never really know someone until you see them at their worst. I found out who my husband was exactly 120 seconds before saying, I do. 2 minutes. That's all it took for my fairy tale to become a nightmare. Picture this. You're 7 months pregnant, standing in your wedding dress at the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, 500 guests waiting downstairs, cameras ready to capture your perfect moment, and then you hear it. Your billionaire fiance's voice through the wall, cold as ice. Once we're married, her father's connections are locked in. She gets the kid, I get the company. Nothing changes between us. What happened next, I lost everything. My baby, my freedom, my sanity, or so they tried to make the world believe. They institutionalized me, took my daughter, called me crazy when I spoke the truth. But here's what they didn't count on. I'm still here. And this is the story of how one powerless woman brought down a billionaire empire. If you've ever felt gaslit, silenced, or powerless, this story is for you. Stay until the end, because the twist you won't see it coming. And if this resonates, hit that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe so you never miss a story of justice served cold. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't anger, it's the truth. Now, let me tell you everything. My name is Emily Rodriguez, and this is the story of how I lost everything and discovered what I was truly made of. They say you never really know someone until you see them at their worst. I found out who my husband was exactly 120 seconds before saying I do. My name is Emily Rodriguez, and this is the story of how I lost everything and discovered what I was truly made of. The Plaza Hotel gleamed like a palace that October evening. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors where 500 guests mingled in designer gowns and custom suits. Outside, Manhattan sparkled with possibilities. Inside, my fairy tale was about to shatter. I stood in the bridal suite, staring at my reflection. The dress was perfect. Vintage lace my mother would have loved if she were still alive to see this day. At 29, 7 months pregnant with my first child, I should have felt like the luckiest woman in the world. Marcus Wellington, tech billionaire, philanthropist, the man who promised me forever, was waiting downstairs. My hands trembled as I adjusted my veil. Not from nerves exactly. Something else. That instinct women ignore when we want so badly to believe in the story we are telling ourselves. I reached for my phone to text my sister one last time before the ceremony. That is when I heard it. Marcus's voice, sharp and cold, cutting through the wall that separated the bridal suite from the groomsman's room. At first, I thought the Bluetooth speaker on my vanity had connected to the wrong device. But no. The wall was just thin enough, and his voice carried that particular edge it took on during business calls. Once we are married, her father's political connections are locked in, Marcus said. Rodriguez is connected to every union leader from Denver to Detroit. The merger needs those labor votes. My breath stopped. I pressed closer to the wall, my pregnant belly brushing against the cool surface. A woman's voice answered, Jessica Harlow, his business partner, his Yale-educated, old money, supposed friend. And after the baby, Jessica asked, post-nup kicks in, she gets the kid, I get the company. Jessica, we have been planning this for 2 years. Nothing changes between us. The room tilted. I grabbed the vanity edge, knocking over a bottle of perfume. It shattered across the marble floor, the scent suddenly suffocating. This could not be real. This could not be happening. Not now. Not after everything. I met Marcus 18 months ago at a charity gala I had planned for a Denver nonprofit. I was the event coordinator who made sure the centerpieces matched and the speeches ran on time. He was the keynote speaker, the billionaire who captivated rooms with his vision of technology serving humanity. When he asked for my number, I thought it was a mistake. But Marcus pursued me like I was the only woman in the world. Private jets to wine country, front row seats at Broadway shows, late-night conversations about building a family, about legacy, about love that transcended the superficial world he inhabited. My family warned me. My father, a union organizer who spent 40 years fighting for working people, did not trust self-made billionaires. My sister Sarah said I was moving too fast, but I was pregnant within 6 months, and Marcus proposed with a ring that cost more than my childhood home. I told myself they did not understand, that Marcus saw something special in me, that our baby would grow up in a world of opportunity I never had. Now, pressed against that wall, listening to the man I loved plot my destruction, I understood exactly what he saw: a useful connection, a breeding vessel, a pawn. Another contraction hit, this one different from the Braxton Hicks I had been experiencing for weeks. Sharp, insistent, real. I stumbled backward, my hand clutching my belly. The baby, my daughter, kicked frantically as if sensing my terror. "No, no, no," I whispered. "Not now. Please, not now." But my body had other plans. The stress, the shock, the betrayal. It was too much. Water gushed down my legs, soaking the antique rug. Another contraction, stronger this time, doubling me over. I tried to scream for help, but my voice came out as a whimper. The door burst open. Not Marcus. One of the hotel staff who had heard the crash of breaking glass. "Oh my God," she gasped. "You are in labor. I will get help." Everything blurred after that. Paramedics rushing in. Marcus appearing, his face a perfect mask of concern. Jessica hovering in the background, her expression unreadable. "Emily, baby, what happened?" Marcus gripped my hand as they loaded me onto the stretcher. His voice dripped with false worry, and I wanted to scream the truth at him. But another contraction silenced me. All I could do was squeeze my eyes shut and pray my baby would be okay. At the hospital, they managed to stop the labor, magnesium sulfate, bed rest, careful monitoring. The baby was safe, but I needed to stay calm. The doctor said, no stress, no excitement. I lay in that hospital bed, Marcus sitting beside me like the devoted almost husband, and I wondered if I had imagined the whole thing, if pregnancy hormones had twisted an innocent conversation into something sinister. He held my hand. He whispered apologies for whatever upset me. He promised we would postpone the wedding until I was healthy, until our daughter was safe. And I almost believed him. Here is what I wish someone had told me then. If something feels wrong in your relationship, trust that feeling. Write it down. Document everything. Because the people who gaslight you count on your self-doubt, on your desire to believe the best in them, on your fear of being called crazy. I did not know it yet, but that moment in the bridal suite was just the beginning. The real betrayal, the true devastation, was still coming. And I was about to learn that sometimes the people you love most are the ones who destroy you best. Marcus Wellington was a master of the loving husband routine. Over the next 3 weeks, as I remained on bed rest in our penthouse overlooking Central Park, he performed care with Oscar-worthy precision. He brought me breakfast in bed, imported pastries from the French bakery I loved, fresh squeezed orange juice, decaffeinated coffee prepared exactly how I preferred. He read parenting books aloud, his hand resting on my belly, talking to our daughter about the future they would share. At night, he held me as I cried about the postponed wedding, about my fears for our baby, about feeling like my body had betrayed me. He whispered reassurances. He promised everything would be perfect once our daughter arrived. I wanted so desperately to believe him, to accept that I had misheard that conversation, that stress and hormones had created monsters from shadows. But I could not forget Jessica's voice asking what happens after the baby. I could not unhear Marcus discussing me like a business transaction. So I waited. I watched. And I made a mistake that would cost me everything. I confronted him. It was a Tuesday evening. Marcus had just returned from the office, loosening his tie as he walked into our bedroom. I had been alone all day with my thoughts, replaying that conversation endlessly. "I need to ask you something," I said, my voice trembling. "About Jessica." His expression did not change. That should have been my first warning. A truly innocent person shows confusion, asks clarifying questions. Marcus just waited. "At the wedding," I continued, "before I went into labor, I heard you talking about my father's connections, about the merger, about plans you and Jessica have been making." Silence stretched between us. Outside, the city hummed with evening traffic. Inside, I could hear my own heartbeat. Then Marcus smiled, gentle, understanding, devastating. "Oh, Emily." He sat beside me on the bed, taking my hand. "Baby, you are still worried about this. I heard you." I insisted. You said, I was discussing the Henderson merger, he interrupted smoothly. Jessica and I have been working on acquiring Henderson Tech for 18 months. Your father knows their union rep. I was hoping he might put in a good word. That is all. But you said after the baby. After the baby is born and you are feeling better. I was hoping you might feel up to hosting a dinner party. Somewhere your father and the Henderson people could meet socially. Emily, I would never. He paused, his face a picture of hurt confusion. Do you really think I would marry you for business connections? Put like that, it sounded absurd, paranoid, exactly the kind of irrational fear a stressed pregnant woman might have. The postnup, I whispered. You mentioned a postnup. The prenup we already signed, he corrected gently. Emily, are you feeling okay? Maybe we should call Dr. Morrison. Sometimes pregnancy can cause anxiety, even paranoia. There is no shame in it. And there it was, the gaslighting masterclass, taking my legitimate concerns and reframing them as symptoms of mental illness. I am not paranoid, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Of course not, Marcus soothed. You are under tremendous stress. Bed rest is hard, being away from work, from your normal routine. It makes sense you might misinterpret things. He pulled out his phone, already dialing. I am calling Dr. Morrison, and I think we should consider seeing Dr. Patricia Chen. She specializes in prenatal mental health. I do not need a therapist, I protested weakly. Just to talk, Marcus insisted. Just to make sure you and the baby are getting every support you need. I love you, Emily. I want to take care of you. Dr. Patricia Chen arrived the next day, 50-something, kind eyes, gentle voice. She sat in our living room and asked me about my stress levels, my sleep patterns, my support system. Your family is in Denver, she asked. Yes, my father and sister. And you moved to New York for Marcus. We thought it was best. His company is here. Do you have friends in the city, a support network outside of Marcus' home? I realized with a sinking feeling that I did not. In the whirlwind of our relationship, the pregnancy, the wedding planning, I had isolated myself. My Denver friends felt distant. The New York social scene Marcus inhabited felt foreign, full of people who smiled at me but never seemed to actually see me. It is common for women to feel anxious during high-risk pregnancies, Dr. Chen said, especially when separated from their support systems. Sometimes that anxiety can manifest as suspicion or paranoia about our partners. There was that word again, paranoia. I am not imagining things, I said. Of course not, she replied, with the exact same soothing tone Marcus used. Your feelings are valid, but perhaps we can explore whether the interpretation of events might be influenced by stress. Over the next 2 weeks, Dr. Chen visited 3 times. Each session subtly reinforced the same message. I was stressed. I was isolated. I was prone to misinterpreting innocent situations. I began to doubt myself. Maybe I had misheard. Maybe Marcus was right about the Henderson merger. Maybe pregnancy was making me irrational. Then Sarah called. My sister, a paralegal in Denver, had that edge in her voice that meant she had news. Em, I need you to listen to me carefully. Do not react. Just listen. What is wrong? I have been doing some digging. Into Marcus, into Wellington Enterprises. My heart rate spiked. Sarah, what did you do? What you were too scared to do? I looked into the prenup you signed. If you leave him, you get nothing, no money, no property, and there is a custody clause. The room seemed to tilt. What kind of custody clause? If the marriage ends within 5 years, and there are allegations of mental instability on your part, he gets primary custody. You would have supervised visitation only. My hand went to my belly, protective. That cannot be legal. You signed it, and here is the thing. Wellington Enterprises is in trouble. Bad trouble. They are hemorrhaging money. The only thing keeping them afloat is a pending merger that requires regulatory approval, union approval. My father, I whispered. Your father has connections to every major union leader in 5 states. Marcus needs those relationships to push through this merger. Without it, his company folds. Everything clicked into place. The whirlwind courtship, the quick pregnancy, The elaborate wedding plans. I was not his love story. I was his bailout plan. But Sarah, I said slowly, how do you know all this? This is confidential corporate information. I have sources, people who owe me favors. What people, Sarah? How did you really get this information? A pause. Too long. Does it matter you need to get out? Take the baby and run. But something felt wrong. Sarah had never been the investigative type. She was careful, risk-averse. This was not like her. I will call you back, I said, and hung up. I sat there, my mind racing. If Sarah was right, I needed to act fast. But if she was wrong, if I ran based on false information, I would look unstable, paranoid, exactly what Marcus was painting me as. I needed proof, real proof, not just my sister's word. That night, I waited until Marcus fell asleep. Then I carefully extracted myself from bed and made my way to his home office. My hands shook as I opened his laptop. I knew his password. He had given it to me freely, another sign of trust I had once treasured. The screen glowed in the darkness. I navigated to his email, searching for anything about the merger, about my father, about me. What I found was worse than I imagined. Email after email to Jessica. Not business correspondence. Love letters. Plans for a future together. Discussions about handling the Emily situation. References to the arrangement and timeline. And then I found it. An email to someone named Richard Foster. The subject line read post-nut modification. I opened it with trembling fingers. Richard, we need to expedite the mental health clause. Have Patricia Chen document increased paranoia and anxiety. If Emily becomes difficult after the birth, we need grounds for institutionalization if necessary. The custody transfer needs to be airtight. The words swam before my eyes. Institutionalization, custody transfer. This was not just about using my family connections. This was about taking my baby. I printed the email, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the paper. I needed to leave. Tonight. Now. But before I could move, I felt it. Another contraction. Stronger than before. No, not again. Not now. I stumbled back to the bedroom, clutching the printed email. Marcus stirred as I climbed back into bed. Emily, are you okay? Another contraction, sharper, more insistent. I gasped. I think the baby is coming. Marcus jumped up, all concern and action. I will call the doctor. Get your bag. As he rushed around the room, I crumpled the email and shoved it under my pillow. I would need it later. I would need proof of what he had planned. But first, I needed to make sure my daughter was safe. The contractions came faster during the drive to the hospital. Marcus held my hand, whispering reassurances that felt like lies. When we arrived, nurses rushed me to labor and delivery. It is too early, I kept saying. 32 weeks. Too early. We will do everything we can, the doctor promised. They gave me medications to stop the labor. But this time, my body would not cooperate. My daughter was determined to enter the world, ready or not. Somewhere in the haze of pain and fear, I heard the doctor talking to Marcus about psychiatric evaluation, about how stress and paranoia could trigger premature labor, about postpartum psychosis risk. I tried to speak, to defend myself, but another contraction silenced me. All I could do was push and pray and hope my baby would be strong enough to survive what I had brought her into. My daughter was born at 2:17 in the morning, 4 pounds, 6 ounces, tiny but breathing. They whisked her away to the NICU before I could even hold her, leaving me with empty arms and a fractured heart. She is a fighter, the nurse said, but I barely heard her over the roaring in my ears. Marcus stood beside my bed, stroking my hair with what anyone else would have called tenderness. You did so well, Emily. Our daughter is going to be fine. I wanted to scream at him, to expose his lies, but exhaustion crashed over me like a wave, pulling me under. I need you to sign some papers, a woman's voice said. I opened my eyes to see a hospital administrator hovering with a clipboard. Standard postpartum documentation, medical decisions, insurance, that sort of thing. My vision blurred. I could barely focus on the words swimming across the pages. What are they? I mumbled. Just formalities, Marcus said smoothly. guiding my hand. So I can make medical decisions for you and the baby while you rest. The doctor said you need to stay calm. Remember, I should have read them. I should have questioned every word. But the medication they had given me during labor made thinking feel like wading through mud. My hand moved across the pages, signing my name over and over. "That's my girl," Marcus murmured, and something in his tone made my skin crawl. I woke up alone. Afternoon light slanted through the hospital blinds. For a moment, I forgot where I was, why my body ached, why my arms felt so empty. Then I remembered. My daughter. My baby girl. I pressed the call button frantically. A nurse I did not recognize appeared in the doorway. "I need to see my baby," I said. "Please, I need to see her." The nurse's expression shifted, uncomfortable. "Let me get the doctor." "I don't need the doctor. I need my daughter. Now, Mrs. Wellington, I really think I am not Mrs. Wellington," I snapped, the words bitter in my mouth. "Where is my baby?" Dr. Morrison entered, his face carefully neutral. "Emily, I am glad you are awake. How are you feeling? Where is she? Where is my daughter?" "She is stable. The NICU team is taking excellent care of her." "I want to see her." "Of course. But first, we need to talk about your recovery, the premature labor, the stress you have been under." "Emily, I am concerned about your mental state." There it was again. Mental state. As if wanting to see my own child was evidence of instability. "I am fine. I just want to hold my baby." "Mr. Wellington mentioned you have been experiencing paranoia. Accusations against him, believing he had ulterior motives for your marriage." I felt the trap closing around me. Every word I said would be twisted, used against me. If I insisted Marcus was plotting against me, I would sound delusional. If I denied it, I would seem to be in denial. "I want to see my daughter," I repeated, keeping my voice steady. "That is all I want right now." Dr. Morrison exchanged a glance with the nurse. "I think it is best if you rest a bit longer. We want to monitor you for postpartum complications." "What complications? I am fine." "You are experiencing significant emotional distress. It is not uncommon after traumatic births. But for your safety and the baby's, we need to keep you under observation." The words hit me like ice water. "Are you saying I cannot see my own child, just for a little while, until we are sure you are stable? This is insane. You cannot keep me from my baby." "Emily, please calm down. Getting agitated will only—" "Don't tell me to calm down. Where is Marcus? I want to talk to Marcus." But even as I said it, I knew Marcus was behind this. Every piece was falling into place exactly as he had planned. The documented paranoia, the stressful pregnancy, the premature birth, and now, proof that I was unstable, demanding, potentially dangerous to my own child. The nurse stepped forward with a syringe. "This will help you rest." "No, I do not want anything. I want to see my daughter." I tried to get out of bed, but my body was weak, uncooperative. The nurse caught my arm, and I felt the sharp prick of the needle. Within seconds, the world softened at the edges. "Sleep now," Dr. Morrison said from somewhere far away. "Everything will be clearer when you wake up." But as darkness claimed me, I knew with terrible certainty that when I woke up, things would be much worse. I do not know how long they kept me sedated. Time became elastic, unreliable. I would surface briefly, awareness flickering like a dying bulb, only to be pulled under again. During one of those brief moments of clarity, I heard voices outside my room, Marcus and someone else, a woman. "The papers are filed," the woman said. "Temporary emergency custody based on mental health concerns. The judge granted it this morning." And she signed the consent forms. While medicated, yes, they will hold up. Dr. Morrison documented her erratic behavior. The paranoid accusations, combined with the psychiatric evaluation Chen provided, we have a solid case. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My body would not obey my commands. I was trapped in my own skin, drowning in pharmaceutical fog while they dismantled my life. "What about the family?" Marcus asked. "The father is problematic, union connections, resources, but the sister is handled." My heart cracked. Sarah. What had they done to Sarah? And after, Marcus's voice dropped lower, harder. After the merger, then Emily becomes whatever you need her to be, institutionalized if necessary. She signed away her rights while mentally incompetent. No court will give her custody now. I fought the medication with everything I had, but it was like fighting the ocean. The darkness pulled me back under, and I spiraled into nightmares where I ran through endless hospitals, following the sound of a baby crying that I could never reach. When I finally woke with a clear head, everything had changed. It was night. The hospital was quiet except for the distant beep of monitors. I sat up slowly, my body aching but functional. The IV had been removed from my arm. I was alone. I had to find my daughter. Now, before they moved her, before Marcus completed whatever plan he had set in motion. I slipped out of bed, my legs shaky but holding. I found clothes in the small closet. Not mine, but something Marcus must have brought. I dressed quickly, every movement sending protests through my healing body. The hallway was dimly lit. I moved as quietly as possible, following the signs to the NICU. My heart hammered against my ribs. If they caught me, they would sedate me again. I would lose any chance of getting to my baby. The NICU entrance required a code. I watched through the window as a nurse punched in the numbers. 4721. I waited until she disappeared into the ward, then entered the code with trembling fingers. The door opened. Inside, incubators lined the walls, each containing a tiny miracle. I moved between them, searching for my daughter. There, in the corner. The card read, Baby Girl Wellington. She was so small. Wires and tubes connected her to machines that kept her alive. But she was beautiful. Perfect. Mine. I reached into the incubator, touching her tiny hand. Her fingers wrapped around mine, and I felt something crack open in my chest. Love so fierce it burned. What are you doing here? I spun around. A NICU nurse stood in the doorway, her expression alarmed. I am seeing my daughter, I said, hearing the edge in my own voice. You are not supposed to be out of bed. Security. Please, I begged. Please, I just want to hold her. Just once. But security was already there. Strong hands on my arms, pulling me away from my baby. No, that is my daughter. You cannot keep me from her. Mrs. Wellington, you need to come with us. They dragged me backward, my screams echoing off the sterile walls. I saw my daughter, so small and fragile in her incubator, and I knew this might be the last time I ever saw her. They did not take me back to my room. They took me to the psychiatric floor. For observation, they said, 24-hour hold for your safety and others. I was not allowed phone calls, not allowed visitors except approved medical staff. The window had bars on it. I sat on the narrow bed, empty and numb. They had done it, Marcus and Jessica and whoever else was part of this conspiracy. They had taken my baby and locked me away, and I had walked right into the trap. The next morning, I found out just how complete my destruction was. Dr. Morrison came with papers, his expression professionally sympathetic. Emily, I am afraid I have difficult news. Mr. Wellington has filed for emergency custody of your daughter, given your recent behavior, breaking into the NICU, the violent outbursts. The court has granted temporary custody to him. I did not break in. I am her mother. You violated hospital security protocol. You had to be physically restrained. Emily, I understand you are going through something difficult, but these actions are only making things worse. What did I sign? I asked, my voice hollow. When I was sedated, what documents did I sign? Dr. Morrison hesitated. Consent forms for your treatment, authorization for Mr. Wellington to make medical decisions on your behalf and the baby's, standard procedure for patients in your condition. I was drugged. Those signatures do not mean anything. You were medicated for your own safety. The consent is valid. I laughed, a sound that scraped my throat raw. You do not understand. This was planned. All of it. Marcus, Jessica, the therapist. All of you. You took my baby. Emily, you are experiencing postpartum psychosis. These paranoid delusions. They are not delusions, I have proof. I have emails. Where? Under my pillow. In the other room. In the home I would never be allowed to return to. I want a lawyer, I said. I have rights. I want my own lawyer. Of course, but first, we need to stabilize you. The court has ordered a psychiatric evaluation. The court, when I was never notified. Emergency hearing. This morning, Mr. Wellington presented evidence of your deteriorating mental state. The judge felt immediate action was necessary to protect the child. While I was locked on this floor, Marcus had gone before a judge. He had presented his carefully documented case of my instability, and he had won. My baby was gone. My freedom was gone. Everything I had was gone. And the worst part, I had helped him do it. Every time I questioned him, every time I pushed back, I had played right into his hands. Every action had been reframed as evidence of mental illness. I was trapped in a nightmare of my own making, and I had no idea how to escape. They released me from the psychiatric hold after 72 hours. Not because I was better, but because they legally had to. The damage was already done. I emerged to find my life dismantled. Marcus had moved Jessica into the penthouse, publicly presenting her as a family friend, helping during this difficult time. My daughter remained in the NICU, and I was forbidden from seeing her. The restraining order Marcus obtained allowed me no contact until I completed psychiatric evaluation and treatment. The media story was carefully crafted. Tech billionaire's fiancé institutionalized after violent postpartum episode. Marcus played the grieving almost husband perfectly. Thoughtful statements about mental health. Carefully staged photos visiting the baby alone. Public sympathy poured his direction. I had nowhere to go. The penthouse was his. Our bank accounts were frozen pending the custody hearing. My credit cards, all in his name, were canceled. I had $200 in cash and the clothes on my back. My father refused to see me. Marcus had gotten to him first, showing him doctor's reports, the restraining order, expressing concern about my welfare. My father, who had never trusted Marcus, somehow believed every word. He released a public statement supporting Marcus and asking for privacy while his daughter got help. Sarah called once. Her voice shook as she told me she could not help me, that she had made mistakes, that I needed to accept treatment. Then she hung up and blocked my number. I realized too late that Sarah had been part of it. The investigation she claimed to have done, the information about the prenup and merger. It had all been fed to her by Marcus's people. They wanted me to confront him, to seem paranoid and unstable. Sarah had been the unwitting catalyst for my destruction. No family, no friends, no resources, no baby. I found myself at a women's shelter in Queens. The intake coordinator barely looked at me as she processed my paperwork. Another woman with no options, another story of loss. The shelter was crowded, noisy, nothing like the luxury I had briefly inhabited. I shared a room with 3 other women, sleeping on a donated mattress that smelled faintly of mildew. At night, I would press my hands to my empty belly and cry silently, mourning the daughter I could not hold. Depression swallowed me whole. I stopped eating, stopped sleeping properly. I would spend hours staring at photos of my daughter that I had saved on my phone before Marcus cut off my access to everything. 4 pounds, 6 ounces of perfection that I might never touch again. The other women in the shelter gave me space at first. They recognized the look of someone barely holding on. But after a week, one of them sat beside me in the common room. "You planning to do something stupid?" she asked bluntly. I looked at her, mid-40s, tired eyes, hands scarred from work I could only imagine. "I do not know what you mean." "Yeah, you do. I have seen that look before. Had it myself once. So I am asking, you planning to do something stupid?" The honest answer was yes. I had thought about it. Walking into traffic, taking pills, anything to stop the agony of existing without my child. "She is better off without me," I whispered. "Who?" "My daughter. They say I am crazy, dangerous. Maybe they are right." The woman snorted. "Let me guess. Rich man told you that powerful man with lawyers and doctors on payroll." I stared at her. "How did you know?" "Because I work here. I see women like you every week. Women who had everything taken by men who knew exactly which strings to pull. You think you are the first woman to be called crazy for speaking truth? You think you are the first mother to lose her baby to a man with money. I signed papers. While I was medicated, I gave him custody. Signed under duress. Signed while incompetent. Honey, those papers ain't worth shit if you fight them. I have no way to fight, no money, No lawyer. He has already won. Has he? She leaned forward. Is your daughter legally adopted? Has he terminated your rights permanently? No. Just emergency custody. Then he has not won. He has just got ahead. But the game is not over. Something stirred in my chest. Not hope exactly. Something smaller but more durable. Stubbornness, maybe. Spite. Who are you? I asked. Name's Carmen. I run this place. She stood, extending her hand. And I think we need to talk. In private? I followed Carmen to her office, a cramped room filled with files and donated furniture. She closed the door and gestured for me to sit. I know who you are, she said. Emily Rodriguez. All over the news. Billionaire's crazy baby mama. I flinched. But I also know Marcus Wellington, Carmen continued. Know him real well. How? She pulled out a photo from her desk drawer. A woman in a wedding dress, smiling, younger, hopeful, pregnant. That was me, Carmen said. 15 years ago. I was married to Marcus Wellington for exactly 6 months. The world tilted. What? Secret marriage. Vegas. We were young. Stupid. I got pregnant. He was still building his empire. Needed to project a certain image. Married man. Family man. It worked for a while. What happened? Same thing that happened to you. He decided he did not need me anymore. Had better options. Started laying groundwork to get rid of me. Documented mental health issues. Built a case for incompetence. Then he took our son. I could not breathe. You have a son. Had. Marcus got full custody. I was institutionalized for 2 years. By the time I got out, fought my way back. My son did not even remember me. Marcus had him adopted by a family friend. Clean break. Erased me completely. Why did you never say anything? Go public. Carmen's laugh was bitter. I did. I tried. Rich man's word versus crazy ex-wives. Guess who people believed I had no proof, no resources. He destroyed me, and I let him because I did not know how to fight back. So why are you telling me this? Because I have spent 15 years learning how to fight, learning the system, becoming the person I wish I had been back then. She leaned forward, her eyes fierce. And because I have been documenting Marcus Wellington's pattern for a very long time, every woman he has used, every child he has taken, and I have proof. Proof of what? That this is what he does, his business model, marry women with useful connections or resources, get them pregnant to lock them in, then take the children and dispose of the mothers. He has done it at least 4 times that I can prove. You are just the latest. I felt sick. 4 children. That I know of. There might be more. He uses different methods. Adoption, legal custody, institutionalization. Whatever works. And it always works because he has money, lawyers, and no conscience. Why? Why does he do this? Control, legacy, image management. Who knows? I stopped trying to understand monsters and started trying to stop them. If you have proof, why has not anyone stopped him already? Because proof is not enough. We need someone willing to stand up in court, someone with credibility, someone recent enough that the trail is not cold. Carmen's gaze held mine. We need you. I am not credible. I am the crazy woman who got locked in psychiatric. You are the mother of his newest victim, and you are not going to stay down. Are you? I thought about my daughter. Tiny fingers wrapped around mine. The life Marcus was already planning for her. Another pawn in his endless game. No, I said. I am not staying down. Good, because I have someone I want you to meet. Carmen made a call. 20 minutes later, a woman arrived at the shelter, late 30s, sharp eyes, digital recorder in hand. Emily Rodriguez, meet Diana Reynolds, investigative journalist. She has been following Marcus Wellington for 3 years. Diana sat down, studying me with the intensity of someone who saw stories in everything. I am sorry for what you are going through, but Carmen is right. You are the key to bringing him down. How I have no credibility. Not yet, but we are going to build it. Together. Diana pulled out a folder thick with documents. I have been investigating Wellington Enterprises. The fraud, the money laundering, the pattern of abuse, but I need a current victim willing to go on record. Someone sympathetic, a mother fighting for her child. The media painted me as unstable. The media printed what Marcus fed them. We are going to change that narrative, but it is going to be hard. We are going to have to expose everything. Your relationship, the pregnancy, the betrayal, all of it. I do not care about embarrassment. I just want my daughter. Then we have work to do. Diana opened the folder, spreading papers across Carmen's desk. This is everything I have on Marcus. Financial records showing the company is failing. Evidence of the merger manipulation. Testimony from other women he has destroyed. And this, she pulled out a photograph. Marcus and Jessica, clearly intimate, dated 3 years ago. Long before he met me. They have been together the whole time, Diana said. You were never the love story. You were the transaction, and we are going to prove it. Hope flickered, dangerous and fragile. When do we start? Right now. But Emily, you need to understand something. When we go after Marcus, he is going to fight back. Dirty. He is going to try to destroy you even further. It is going to get worse before it gets better. I thought about my daughter, growing up believing her mother abandoned her, growing up as another tool in Marcus Wellington's collection. Let it get worse, I said. I have already lost everything. I have nothing left to protect except the truth. Carmen smiled, the first real smile I had seen from her. That is what I was hoping you would say. Over the next week, I lived at the shelter and worked with Diana and Carmen to build a case. We documented everything. My relationship with Marcus, the pregnancy, the overheard conversation, the systematic gaslighting, the forced medication, the stolen custody. Diana interviewed me for hours, recording every detail. She was building a story, yes, but more importantly, she was building a legal case. Everything we documented would be useful in court. We need more than your testimony, though, Diana said on the 5th day. We need hard evidence. Emails, recordings, witnesses who can corroborate the pattern. I have nothing. Marcus made sure of that. What about the email you mentioned, the one to Richard Foster about institutionalization? It was under my pillow in the hospital. They probably destroyed it. Maybe, but emails do not just disappear. If we can get access to Marcus's accounts, how he has changed all the passwords, and even if we got them, would not that be illegal? Diana and Carmen exchanged a look. There might be another way, Carmen said slowly. Someone on the inside. Someone who might be willing to help. Who? Marcus's executive assistant, Rebecca Ford. She has been with him for 6 years. She knows everything. Why would she help me? Because, Carmen said, pulling out another file. Rebecca is also the mother of one of Marcus's children, a daughter, adopted out 5 years ago. The pattern became clearer. Marcus did not just use women for their connections. He collected children like trophies, placing them with carefully selected families, maintaining control while appearing generous. Rebecca still works for him, I asked, stunned. She has no choice. Non-compete clause. If she leaves Wellington Enterprises, she cannot work in tech for 5 years. Single mother, student loans, no options. So she stays and watches him do to other women what he did to her. Do you think she will help? I think, Diana said carefully, that she might if approached correctly, but it is risky. If Marcus finds out we contacted her, he will bury all the evidence deeper. I will talk to her, I said. Emily, if this goes wrong, everything has already gone wrong. I have nothing left to lose. That was not quite true. I still had the fragile thread of hope that I might see my daughter again. But that thread was so thin, so close to breaking, that gambling it felt inevitable. We set up a meeting with Rebecca at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. Neutral ground, public enough to be safe, private enough to talk. Rebecca arrived 10 minutes late, looking over her shoulder like she expected Marcus to materialize from the shadows. She was younger than I expected, maybe 30, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and heavy secrets. You have 5 minutes, she said, sitting down. If anyone sees me with you, I am done. I know what he did to you, I said quietly. Your daughter. I am sorry. Rebecca's face crumpled for just a second before she forced it back to neutral. What do you want? The same thing you want, to stop him from doing this to anyone else. I cannot help you. I signed NDAs. If I break them, I lose everything. You have already lost everything that matters, Carmen said gently. Your daughter, your dignity, your peace. What else can Marcus take? My ability to survive. My job is all I have left. Rebecca, Diana leaned forward. How many more women? How many more children? When does it end? When someone stronger than me stops him? I am sorry. I cannot be that person. She stood to leave, and I felt my last chance slipping away. Please, I said. I am not asking you to go public. I am not asking you to testify. I just need you to get me one thing, one email, one piece of evidence, something that proves what he is doing. Rebecca hesitated, her hand on her purse. What email? The one to Richard Foster, about institutionalizing me if necessary, about making sure the custody transfer was airtight. It was sent the night before my daughter was born. If you can get me that, I can start to build a case. And if I get caught, we will protect you, I promise. Rebecca laughed, hollow and broken. No one can protect anyone from Marcus Wellington. He is too rich, too connected, too careful. You are going to lose, Emily, just like I lost, just like every woman before you. She walked away, and I watched my hope walk with her. But 3 days later, an envelope appeared at the shelter. No return address. Inside, a flash drive and a note in feminine handwriting. I cannot help you publicly, but I cannot stay silent anymore either. This is everything I could safely copy. Emails, financial records, phone logs. Enough to start. Please be careful. He will destroy you if he can. But maybe, just maybe, you are strong enough to destroy him first. I plugged the flash drive into Diana's laptop with trembling hands. As files populated the screen, Diana's eyes widened. This is it, she breathed. This is everything we need. Carmen gripped my shoulder. Now the real fight begins. I stared at the screen, at the evidence of Marcus's systematic destruction of women and theft of children. My daughter's face flashed through my mind. Tiny, perfect, stolen. Good, and I said, I am ready. Diana worked fast. Within 48 hours, she had compiled Rebecca's evidence into a devastating expose, but rather than publish immediately, she took a different approach. We go to the FBI first, she explained. Financial fraud, conspiracy, potential RICO violations. Let them build the criminal case. Then we go public. The FBI was interested. Very interested. 2 agents spent 3 days interviewing me, reviewing documents, building their investigation. They told me to stay quiet, stay patient. They promised justice. I allowed myself to hope. The lead agent, Jennifer Walsh, became my lifeline. She explained the process, managed my expectations, treated me like a person instead of a victim or a crazy woman. We are building an airtight case, she assured me. Marcus Wellington is going down, and you are going to get your daughter back. For the first time since the hospital, I slept through the night. I started eating again. The other women at the shelter noticed the change, offering quiet encouragement. Carmen was more cautious. Do not get too comfortable, she warned. Men like Marcus do not go down easy. But I was too intoxicated by hope to listen. The FBI was involved. I had evidence. I had allies. Surely this time, justice would prevail. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following week. My court-appointed lawyer, overwhelmed and underpaid, barely glanced at my case. But I had Agent Walsh's card in my pocket. I had proof of Marcus's crimes. When the time came, I would present everything. 3 days before the hearing, my daughter was released from the NICU. I found out from a news alert on my phone. Photos of Marcus carrying a tiny bundle, Jessica beside him playing the doting aunt. The caption read, Wellington takes daughter home. My daughter, in the home I had been erased from, with the man who stole her and the woman who helped. I called Agent Walsh immediately. Can you stop this? Can you get me access? Not yet, she said. We do not have enough for an arrest. The financial crimes are solid, but the custody manipulation is harder to prove. We need more time. I do not have more time. The hearing is in 3 days. I know, I am sorry. But if you try to see her now, you will violate the restraining order. You will lose any chance at custody. I hung up, frustration burning in my chest. What good was evidence if I could not use it? What good was justice if it came too late? Carmen found me in the common room, staring at photos of my daughter on my phone. You are thinking of doing something stupid, she observed. I am thinking of going to get my daughter. That is the same thing. She is home now, out of the hospital. I could just see her, just hold her once, and get arrested, and lose the custody case, and prove Marcus right about you being unstable. Carmen sat beside me. Emily, I know it hurts, but you cannot let emotion override strategy. We are so close. Close is not enough. She is growing every day without me. She is going to think Jessica is her mother. Then we make sure that is not permanent. But we do it smart. We do it right. I knew she was correct, but knowing and feeling were different things. The ache of empty arms overrode logic. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about my daughter, alone in that penthouse. Did she cry? Did anyone comfort her properly? Did Marcus even care about her beyond her use as a pawn at 2 a.m? I made a decision, not to take my daughter, but to see her, just to confirm she was safe. I would not touch her, would not violate the restraining order. I would just look. I took the subway to Manhattan, my heart pounding. The penthouse building loomed above me, a tower of glass and steel. I knew the security codes, the back entrance Marcus used to avoid photographers. I slipped inside like a ghost, taking the service elevator to the penthouse floor. The hallway was empty, silent. I approached the door, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. It opened before I touched it. Jessica stood there, dressed in a silk robe, my daughter in her arms. I wondered when you would come, she said calmly. I stared at my baby, so close I could touch her. She was awake, her eyes wide and alert. Perfect. Please, I whispered. Let me hold her. Just for a minute. You are violating the restraining order. I should call the police. I know. I do not care. Please, Jessica, if you ever had any humanity, let me hold my daughter. Something flickered across Jessica's face. Pity maybe, or calculation. Come inside, she said. Quickly. I followed her into what used to be my home. Everything had been redecorated, all traces of me erased. Jessica sat on the couch, still holding my daughter. Why did you do this? I asked. Help him destroy me. Because I love him, Jessica said simply. I have always loved him. You were temporary, an inconvenience. I am her mother. You are a woman who got in the way. Marcus and I have been together since college. You were just business. And the baby. Jessica looked down at my daughter, her expression unreadable. She is beautiful. I will raise her well. She is not yours to raise. The court says otherwise, and after the hearing, it will be permanent. Marcus has the best lawyers, the best evidence. You have nothing. I have the truth. The truth, Jessica laughed. Emily, the truth is what we say it is. We have doctors, lawyers, judges, all agreeing that you are unstable. Your truth is just delusion. She stood, still holding my daughter, and walked toward the nursery. I followed, desperate. I have evidence, I said. Proof of what Marcus did? The FBI is investigating. Jessica paused. What evidence? I realized my mistake immediately. I had revealed my hand. It does not matter, I backtracked. You cannot win. The truth will come out. But Jessica was already pulling out her phone, texting rapidly, to Marcus. I assumed, warning him. You should go, she said coldly. Before I call the police, let me say goodbye. Please. Jessica considered, then held out my daughter. 1 minute, then you leave and never come back. I took my baby in my arms for the first time since her birth. She was warm, solid, real. I breathed in her scent, memorized her face, whispered promises I prayed I could keep. Mommy loves you, I said. Mommy is going to fix this. I promise. My daughter yawned, her tiny fist curling against my chest. In that moment, nothing else existed. Not Marcus, not Jessica, not the empire of lies. Just me and my daughter. Time's up, Jessica said. I kissed my baby's forehead and handed her back. each movement tearing my soul. As I walked toward the door, Jessica called after me. You came here because you are desperate, emotional, unstable. Exactly what we said you were. Thank you for confirming it. I turned. What Jessica gestured to the corner of the ceiling, a small camera, partially hidden, recording everything. You violated the restraining order. You entered our home illegally. You made threats, all documented. Marcus will have this evidence within the hour. I had walked right into the trap. Again, I ran, down the service stairs, out into the cold night, my chest heaving with panic and grief. What had I done? I had just handed Marcus everything he needed to destroy me permanently. By morning, the video was everywhere, edited carefully to show me breaking in, grabbing the baby from Jessica, making wild accusations. The audio was distorted to make my whispered goodbye sound like threats. The headline screamed, "Unstable mother breaks into home, threatens infant, restraining order violated. Wellington fears for daughter's safety." Agent Walsh called, her voice tight with frustration. "Emily, what were you thinking? I just wanted to see her. You compromised the entire investigation. Marcus's lawyers are already using this to discredit you. They are claiming you are exactly what they said, dangerous and unstable. But you have the evidence, the emails, the financial records. Evidence that now comes from a source who violated a restraining order and broke into a private home. Do you understand how this looks? Every piece of proof we had is now tainted by your actions." The hearing was a disaster. I sat at the defense table, my court-appointed lawyer barely able to look at me. Marcus sat across the aisle, the picture of concerned fatherhood, Jessica beside him, playing the protective guardian. The judge was not sympathetic. She watched the video of me breaking in, listened to expert testimony about my mental state, reviewed the restraining order violation. "Miss Rodriguez," she said when it was my turn to speak, "do you understand the severity of your actions? I just wanted to see my daughter. Your Honor, you violated a court order. You broke into a private residence. You took an infant from her legal guardian's arms despite having no custodial rights. I am her mother, a mother who has shown consistent evidence of poor judgment and potential danger. I am ruling in favor of Mr. Wellington. Full custody is granted. Miss Rodriguez, you will have no contact with the child pending completion of mandatory psychiatric treatment. When and if you are deemed stable, supervised visitation may be considered." The gavel fell. My daughter was gone. Legally, completely, devastatingly gone. I walked out of the courthouse into a mob of reporters. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust toward my face. Questions shouted from all directions. "Emily, do you regret breaking in? Are you getting psychiatric help? Do you have a message for your daughter?" I pushed through them, Carmen and Diana flanking me. We made it to Carmen's car and drove in silence back to the shelter. "I am sorry," I finally said. "I ruined everything." "Yes," Carmen said bluntly. "You did. The evidence is still good," Diana argued. "The FBI can still pursue the financial crimes. But the custody case is lost," Carmen said. And that was what mattered most to Emily. I stared out the window at the city blurring past. I had been so close. I had evidence, allies, a chance, and I had destroyed it all because I could not control my emotions. "What do I do now?" I asked. Neither of them answered, because there was no good answer. I had lost my daughter, my credibility, my last chance at justice. We arrived at the shelter to find police cars waiting. Agent Walsh stood on the steps, her expression grim. "Emily Rodriguez, you are under arrest for violation of a restraining order, breaking and entering, and attempted kidnapping." Attempted kidnapping? I did not try to take her. The video shows you removing the child from Jessica Harlow's arms against her will. "Mr. Wellington is pressing charges." Carmen stepped forward. "This is ridiculous. She is the mother. She is a woman with no legal rights to that child who violated multiple court orders. I am sorry, Carmen. I tried to argue for leniency, but the DA is moving forward." They handcuffed me right there on the shelter steps. As they loaded me into the police car, I saw the other women watching from the windows. Women who had believed in me, who had hoped I might be the one to beat the system. I had let them all down. At the police station, they processed me like any other criminal. fingerprints, photos, orange jumpsuit. I was assigned a cell with 3 other women, all of us casualties of a system that protected powerful men. That night, lying on a thin mattress that smelled of despair, I finally understood. I was not going to win. I was not going to get my daughter back. Marcus Wellington had constructed a perfect trap, and I had walked into it willingly at every turn. My daughter would grow up believing I abandoned her, or worse, believing I was dangerous, unstable, someone to fear, and there was nothing I could do to change it. I closed my eyes and let the darkness take me. Not sleep, something deeper, a giving up that felt almost peaceful. I was done fighting. Marcus had won. I spent 3 days in jail before bail was posted. I assumed it was Carmen, using shelter funds to free me. But when I walked out of processing, I found someone unexpected waiting. Rebecca Ford, Marcus's assistant, the woman who had given us the flash drive. "We need to talk," she said. "Somewhere private." She drove me to a diner in Queens, far from Manhattan's prying eyes. We sat in a back booth, coffee growing cold between us. "Why did you bail me out?" I asked. "Because I need you functional. Because what I am about to tell you requires you to be clear-headed. I am done. Rebecca, I lost. He won. That is what he thinks too. And that is exactly what we need him to think." I looked up. Something in her tone cut through my despair. "The evidence I gave you was real," Rebecca continued, "but it was not everything. I held back the most damaging information because I needed to be sure you could handle it." "Handle what?" Rebecca pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. "The truth about Marcus Wellington. Not just what he did to you, to me, to the others. The truth about who he really is." I opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were documents, photos, legal records. It took me a moment to understand what I was seeing. "This is a birth certificate," I said slowly, "for Marcus Wellington, but the parents' names are not the Wellingtons," Rebecca finished. "Marcus was adopted at age 5. His biological mother was Victoria Ashford. She died in a psychiatric institution when Marcus was 7. "I do not understand." "Victoria Ashford was a patient at Bellevue, diagnosed with severe mental illness, institutionalized against her will by her wealthy family. While there, she was impregnated by a staff member. That child was Marcus." The horror sank in slowly. His own mother was institutionalized, against her will. Her family wanted control of her trust fund, so they had her declared mentally incompetent, locked her away, and took everything. When she got pregnant, they were furious. But then they saw an opportunity. Rebecca pulled out more documents. The Wellington family, old New York money, wanted an heir. They could not have children naturally, so they adopted Victoria's son, gave him their name, their legacy, and they taught him exactly what they had learned: how to use the mental health system to control people, how to weaponize institutionalization. Marcus is doing to other women what was done to his mother. Not just that, he is perfecting it. The Wellington family has been doing this for 3 generations, taking women with resources, getting them pregnant, declaring them unfit, seizing custody. It is their business model. I felt sick. How many? At least 12. That I can prove. Marcus has 7 children scattered across various families. His mother, Victoria Wellington, has 6 more from before Marcus. And Victoria's mother started the whole enterprise. We are talking about dozens of stolen children over 60 years. Why are you telling me this? Rebecca's hands shook as she pulled out one final document. Because Victoria Ashford is still alive. I stared. What you said she died. That is what the Wellingtons claimed. But I found her in a care facility upstate. She has been there for 45 years, medicated into silence. No one knows she exists except the family members who pay to keep her there. Marcus's mother is alive. Does he know? Yes. He visits her once a year to remind her of what happens to women who cross the Wellington family. The enormity of it crashed over me. This was not just one man's cruelty. This was a family tradition of destroying women. And Marcus was the latest iteration, the most skilled practitioner of a horror passed down through generations. We need to free her, I said. We need to get Victoria out of that facility, get her story public. I tried, She is still legally declared incompetent. The Wellington family controls her care, her money, her life. Even after 45 years, she is still their prisoner. Then we expose it all. We go to the media, the FBI, everyone. Rebecca shook her head. The Wellingtons own half the judges in New York. They have politicians in their pocket. The same system that failed Victoria will fail you, fail me, fail every woman they target. Unless what? Unless we use their own weapon against them. The mental health system, the legal frameworks they built to trap women, we turn it around. How Rebecca leaned forward, her voice dropping. Marcus has been seeing his mother's psychiatrist, Dr. Harrison Webb, for 20 years. Mandatory sessions, ordered by the family to ensure he does not have Victoria's mental health issues. So Dr. Webb knows everything. Every manipulation Marcus has done, every woman destroyed, every child stolen. It is all in those session notes, protected by doctor-patient confidentiality, unless the patient is a danger to himself or others, I finished, understanding dawning. If we can prove Marcus is an active threat, Dr. Webb is legally required to break confidentiality. His records become evidence. And those records contain everything: names, dates, methods, the whole empire of abuse. But how do we prove he is a threat? Rebecca smiled, cold and determined. We make him prove it himself. We set a trap, and we use you as bait. Over the next week, Rebecca laid out the plan. It was risky, possibly insane, but it was the only shot we had. The custody hearing had gone in Marcus's favor, but it was not final. There was a 60-day window before permanent custody was established. In that window, I was allowed to petition for supervised visitation rights. You file the petition, Rebecca explained. Marcus will fight it. He will use every dirty trick to prove you are unfit. And when he does, when he goes too far, we document everything. He has already gone too far. He has already destroyed me. But not illegally enough. Everything he has done has been technically legal, unethical, immoral, but legal. We need him to cross the line. To do something so obviously criminal that Dr. Webb is forced to break confidentiality? Like what? Like attempting to have you killed. The words hung in the air. Marcus does not kill people, I said. Not directly, but 3 women who fought the Wellington family have died in the past 10 years. Accidents, suicides, convenient tragedies. The family has connections to people who make problems disappear. You want me to put myself in danger? Deliberately. I want you to give Marcus enough rope to hang himself, and I want to make sure you are protected when he tries. Carmen was against it when she heard, Emily, you are talking about making yourself a target. What if something goes wrong? What if they actually hurt you? They have already hurt me, I said. They took my daughter. At this point, what else can they take? Diana was more pragmatic. If we do this, we need safety measures. Protective custody, wiretaps, federal oversight. Agent Walsh was skeptical when we approached her. You want to deliberately provoke a man you claim is dangerous? This is not how investigations work. Your investigation stalled, Rebecca pointed out. The financial crimes are not enough. You need evidence of the custody manipulation, the pattern of abuse. This is how you get it. By risking Emily's life. I am already at risk, I said. At least this way, I am fighting back. After days of negotiation, Agent Walsh agreed to a limited operation. I would file the visitation petition. FBI agents would monitor my safety. If Marcus made any move against me, they would intervene. But understand, Agent Walsh warned, if he is as smart as you say, he won't take the bait, and you will have risked everything for nothing. I filed the petition on a Monday. By Tuesday, Marcus's lawyers filed their opposition. By Wednesday, the media storm had reignited. Unstable mother demands access. Wellington fears for daughter's safety. Judge to decide Friday. I gave one interview, carefully scripted by Diana. Emotional but controlled. A mother begging for the chance to see her child. Sympathetic enough to appeal to public opinion. Threatening enough to worry Marcus. The night before the hearing, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. my heart pounding. Emily? Marcus's voice. Smooth. Controlled. Dangerous. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Even if it is about our daughter. I closed my eyes, fighting the urge to scream. What about her? She is starting to smile, to recognize faces. Jessica thinks she looks like me. I think she looks like you. Why are you calling? To give you a choice. Drop the petition, walk away, and I will make sure you are taken care of. Therapy, housing, whatever you need. You can rebuild your life. Just leave us alone. And if I do not, silence. Long enough to be threatening, then I will do what is necessary to protect my family. You know I have the resources, the connections. Accidents happen. Emily, especially to unstable women with nothing to lose. There it was, the threat, veiled but clear. Is that what happened to the others? I asked. The women who fought you accidents. Another pause. I do not know what you mean. Victoria, your mother. Is she an accident too? 45 years in a facility. Is that an accident? I heard his breathing change. Faster. Angrier. You have been talking to people you should not talk to, he said softly. That is dangerous. Emily, for you and for them. Prove it, I whispered. If you are going to threaten me, have the courage to follow through. I hung up. My hands shook so badly I dropped the phone. Rebecca was right. I had provoked him. Now we would see if he took the bait. The next morning, I woke to pounding on my door. Agent Walsh stood outside, her face pale. We need to move you. Now. What happened? Someone tried to access your location through your phone's GPS. Sophisticated hacking, military grade. We traced it to a firm that does wet work for high-profile clients. Wet work. Assassinations. Emily, Marcus just hired someone to find you. We need to get you into protective custody immediately. As they rushed me out of the shelter, I saw Rebecca watching from across the street. She nodded once. The trap was working. But as I climbed into the unmarked car, I could not shake the feeling that I had just signed my own death warrant. Protective custody meant a safe house in Brooklyn, FBI agents outside my door, and complete isolation from everyone except Agent Walsh and the prosecution team. For 3 days, I existed in a bubble of tension, waiting for Marcus to make his next move. The assassination attempt was enough to subpoena Dr. Webb's records. The judge, presented with evidence that Marcus had hired professionals to locate me, agreed that patient confidentiality could be breached if the records showed a pattern of dangerous behavior. Dr. Webb fought it. The Wellington family threw every lawyer they had at blocking the subpoena, but the evidence was too strong. On Friday morning, the records were released to federal prosecutors. Agent Walsh arrived at the safe house with a box of files and an expression I could not read. You need to see this, she said. The session notes were devastating. 20 years of Marcus describing his manipulations in clinical detail. He had been proud of it, treating therapy as a place to refine his techniques. He discussed each woman by name, how he targeted them, courted them, trapped them, how he documented their instability, real or manufactured, how he took their children and erased them from existence. But it was not just about the women. The notes revealed the full scope of the Wellington family enterprise. Marcus's grandfather had started it in the 1950s, targeting wealthy women, declaring them mentally unfit, seizing their assets. The family had refined the process over generations, using evolving mental health laws to their advantage. They kept the children, placing them with carefully vetted families who owed the Wellingtons favors. The children grew up never knowing their real mothers, many becoming assets for the family's business and political networks. It was not just abuse, it was a systematic harvesting of bloodlines and connections, building an empire on the bones of destroyed women. How did they get away with this for so long, I asked. Money, power, and exploiting a system designed to protect vulnerable people. Agent Walsh pulled out another file. But here is the thing that changes everything. Dr. Webb did not just document Marcus's crimes, he documented the family's involvement. She showed me notes from sessions where Marcus discussed his mother, Victoria Wellington, and the other family matriarchs who had perfected the system before him. Victoria was not a victim-turned-victimizer, I realized. She was the architect. Exactly. The story about her being institutionalized against her will was partly true. But what Rebecca did not know, what Marcus barely admits even to his therapist, is that Victoria orchestrated her own commitment. Agent Walsh pulled out a letter, yellowed with age, Victoria's handwriting, addressed to the Wellington family lawyer. She wanted to create the perfect test case, Agent Walsh explained. Prove that a wealthy woman could be institutionalized on minimal evidence, her assets seized, her children taken. She sacrificed herself to establish legal precedent. She let them take Marcus. She gave them Marcus, to be raised in the family tradition, to perfect what she started. The entire thing was a decades-long project to build a system where wealthy families could control women and children through legal institutionalization. The horror of it was staggering. This was not just one family's cruelty. This was a blueprint that had been shared, refined, and used by the wealthy elite for generations. We can stop it now, though, right? I asked. With this evidence, we can stop Marcus, we can stop the Wellington family. But Emily, there are others. Families who learn from them, who are still using these techniques. This is bigger than one custody case. I do not care about the others. I care about my daughter. Agent Walsh's expression softened. I know, and we are going to get her back. The evidence is overwhelming. Marcus will be arrested within hours. Full custody will be returned to you. But I need you to understand something. What? The Wellingtons will not go quietly. They have resources we can barely imagine. They will fight this with everything they have, and they will come after you. Let them come. The arrest happened that evening. FBI agents raided Wellington Enterprises headquarters, taking Marcus into custody as shocked employees watched. The charges were extensive fraud, conspiracy, witness tampering, solicitation of murder. Jessica was arrested simultaneously at the penthouse. The look on her face as agents led her away in handcuffs was captured by every news camera in the city. I watched it unfold on the television in the safe house. Agent Walsh beside me. It's over, she said. You won. But I felt no triumph, only exhaustion and a desperate need to see my daughter. When can I get her back? Emergency hearing is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Given the circumstances, custody should be transferred immediately. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining my daughter in foster care, confused and scared, not understanding why another set of arms had taken her. The hearing was brief. The judge, presented with overwhelming evidence of Marcus's crimes and the fraudulent nature of the custody order, ruled swiftly. Custody is hereby returned to Emily Rodriguez, effective immediately. All previous orders are vacated. Miss Rodriguez, your daughter is currently with Child Protective Services. They've been notified to release her to you today. I walked out of that courtroom a free woman, a vindicated woman, a mother who could finally hold her child. Carmen and Diana were waiting outside. They had watched the entire proceeding, documenting everything for the story Diana would write. How does it feel? Diana asked. Ask me again when I have her in my arms. The CPS office was across town. We took a cab, my leg bouncing with nervous energy the entire ride. Carmen held my hand. Breathe, she reminded me. You've got this. At CPS, a caseworker led me to a small room. She's been well cared for, she assured me. The foster family was very gentle with her. Then she brought my daughter to me, 2 months old now, bigger than when I last held her, but still impossibly small. She was awake, her eyes finding mine immediately. For a moment, I feared she wouldn't recognize me, that too much time had passed. But then she made a small sound, her hand reaching toward my face, and I knew. Some bond could not be broken by time or distance. I took her in my arms, and the world finally made sense again. Hi, baby girl, I whispered. Mommy's here. Mommy's got you now. She curled against my chest like she had been waiting for this moment too. I breathed in her scent, felt her heartbeat against mine, and let the tears come. Carmen took photos, capturing the reunion. Diana stood respectfully back, giving us space. The caseworker smiled. You can take her home, she said. Home? I didn't have a home. I lived in a shelter. I had no job, no money, no plan beyond this moment. But I had my daughter. And that was enough to start. The media frenzy after Marcus's arrest was overwhelming. Every news outlet wanted my story. Book publishers called with offers. Movie producers circled like sharks. Diana wrote the definitive exposé, laying out the Wellington family's decades of abuse. It won her a Pulitzer. She split the prize money with me, refusing to profit alone from my pain. Carmen helped me find an apartment, small but safe, where my daughter and I could begin building a real life. Rebecca visited once, bringing a stuffed animal for the baby and an apology I hadn't realized I needed. "I should have helped sooner," she said. "Should have stood up before it got this bad." "You helped when it mattered," I told her. "That's enough." The Wellington family tried to fight back. Teams of lawyers argued that the evidence was inadmissible, that Dr. Webb had violated confidentiality improperly, that Marcus was the real victim. But the sheer volume of evidence was overwhelming. 12 women came forward with similar stories. 7 stolen children were identified. The financial crimes alone would send Marcus to prison for decades. Victoria Wellington, Marcus's mother, was finally freed from her facility. At 73, she faced the world she had helped create, the monster she had birthed and raised. She gave one interview with Diana before disappearing from public life. "I thought I was building something," Victoria said, her voice paper-thin. "A system where women like me could maintain control, even from inside institutions. I thought if we mastered the tools used against us, we could wield them for our own purposes." "But you use them against other women," Diana pointed out. "Yes." Victoria's eyes were empty, haunted. "I became what I feared most, and I raised my son to be worse." She died 6 months later, leaving behind a legacy of destruction that would take years to fully untangle. Marcus went to trial. I testified, along with Rebecca, Carmen, and 8 other women. The prosecution presented Dr. Webb's notes, financial records, witness testimony, a mountain of evidence that buried any defense Marcus's lawyers attempted. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, I was given the opportunity to address the court. I stood, my daughter sleeping in Carmen's arms behind me, and faced the man who had tried to destroy me. "You wanted to take everything from me," I said. "My dignity, my sanity, my child. You wanted to reduce me to nothing, but you failed. Not because I was stronger than you, but because I had something you never understood. I had people who loved me for who I was, not what I could give them. I had a reason to fight that went beyond money or power, and I had the truth." Marcus stared at me, his expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought I saw something flicker behind his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or just the realization that he had finally lost. "The truth is simple," I continued. "You are not a master manipulator. You are a scared man who inherited a terrible legacy and lacked the courage to break it. You used women and children as shields against your own emptiness. And now you will spend the rest of your life knowing that everything you built was sand, and one woman's voice was enough to wash it away." The judge sentenced him to 45 years. He would be 80 before he saw freedom again, if he lived that long. As they led him away, he looked back once. Our eyes met, and I saw it clearly. He had truly believed he was untouchable, and he could not comprehend how someone like me, powerless and broken, had brought down his empire. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired and ready to move on. 6 months after Marcus's conviction, I stood in my small apartment, watching my daughter take her first assisted steps. She gripped the coffee table, her face scrunched in concentration, determined to reach the toy just out of reach. "You can do it," I encouraged. "Come on, baby girl." She took one wobbly step, then another, before falling onto her well-padded bottom. Instead of crying, she laughed, clapping her hands at her own accomplishment. I laughed too, picking her up and spinning her around. These were the moments Marcus had tried to steal, these ordinary, perfect moments of motherhood. My life had stabilized in ways I never expected. The settlement from the Wellington estate was substantial enough that I never had to worry about money again. I could have lived in luxury if I wanted. Instead, I used most of it to establish a foundation. The Emily Rodriguez Foundation for Family Justice helped women fighting custody battles against powerful opponents. We provided legal support, housing, counseling, everything I wished I had when I was fighting alone. Carmen ran the foundation with me. Her experience, combined with my story, made us a formidable team. We had already helped 37 women regain custody of their children. Rebecca joined us too, leaving the tech world behind to use her skills for something meaningful. She reconciled with her own daughter, now 10, building a relationship that would take years to fully heal, but was worth every effort. Diana continued her investigative work, exposing other cases of custody manipulation. Her reporting led to reforms in how courts handled mental health evaluations in family law cases. And me, I was learning to be just Emily, not a victim, not a survivor story, just a mother raising her daughter, building a life one day at a time. The trauma didn't disappear. I still had nightmares about losing my daughter, still panicked when she was out of sight for too long, still struggled with trusting people, especially men who seemed too good to be true. But I was healing. Therapy helped. Community helped. Purpose helped. One afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, still wary of surprises. But something made me pick up. Emily Rodriguez, a woman's voice, nervous. Yes, my name is Sarah Chen. I saw your story. I'm in a situation similar to what you went through. My husband, he's trying to take my son. He has money, lawyers, and everyone believes him when he says I'm unstable. I don't know what to do. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar ache of recognition. Another woman, another child at risk, another battle in a war that never truly ended. Sarah, I said gently, tell me everything, and then we're going to fight, together. Because that was the real victory. Not defeating Marcus, not getting my daughter back. The real victory was using my pain to protect others, turning my nightmare into a shield for women who were still in the fight. Here's what I wish I had known when I was drowning in Marcus's manipulation. You are not crazy for trusting your instincts. Document everything, even when it feels paranoid. Find your people, the ones who believe you when the world calls you a liar, and never, ever give up on the truth. Because eventually, the truth has power that money cannot buy. My daughter would grow up knowing her mother fought for her, knowing that sometimes you lose everything before you find what truly matters, knowing that strength is not about never breaking, but about standing back up, again and again, until the world has no choice but to acknowledge you are unbreakable. That night, after Sarah and I talked for 2 hours and I connected her with our foundation's resources, I held my daughter close and whispered the same words I had whispered in that NICU, when she was barely clinging to life and I thought I might lose her forever. Mommy loves you. Mommy's got you now. And no one will ever take you away again. She yawned, her tiny fist curling against my chest, completely secure in the knowledge that she was safe. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt it too. Safe. Not because the world was suddenly kind or justice always prevailed, but because I had learned something Marcus and his family never understood. Real power is not about controlling others. It is about refusing to be controlled. It is about standing in your truth so firmly that no amount of money or manipulation can shake you loose. I had been broken, shattered, destroyed, but I was still here, still standing, still fighting, and that was the greatest victory of all. 1 year after Marcus's conviction, I received an unexpected visitor. Jessica Harlow stood in the hallway of my apartment building, looking nothing like the confident woman who had stolen my life. Prison had changed her. She was thinner, her designer clothes replaced by budget store jeans and a plain sweater. Her hair, once perfectly styled, hung limp around her shoulders. I know I have no right to be here, she said when I opened the door. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I wanted to say it to your face. I'm sorry. I held my daughter closer, protective instinct flaring. Sorry doesn't give me back the months you stole. I know. Nothing I say can fix what we did, but I need you to understand something. I was raised in that family, the Wellingtons. They taught me that love was transactional, that people were assets to be managed. I genuinely believed I was doing the right thing, helping Marcus build his empire. You helped him destroy women, steal children. Yes, Jessica's voice cracked. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to atone for that. I cooperated with prosecutors. I testified against the family. I'm helping identify other victims. It's not enough, I know, but it's all I can do. I studied her, looking for signs of manipulation, but all I saw was brokenness that mirrored my own. Why are you really here, Jessica? Because you need to know something. The Wellingtons have resources we never touched. Money hidden in offshore accounts, allies we never exposed. Marcus is in prison, but the system he was part of, the network of families who use these tactics, they're still out there. And they see you as a threat. Ice ran down my spine. What are you saying? I'm saying be careful. The fight isn't over. There are people who want the Wellington methods to stay hidden. People with more power than Marcus ever had. She handed me a flash drive. This is everything I know about the network. Names, connections, methods. I can't fight them anymore. But maybe you can. Before I could respond, she turned and walked away, disappearing down the stairs like a ghost of my past life. That night, I looked at the flash drive for a long time before plugging it into my laptop. Carmen sat beside me, Diana on video call from her hotel room where she was investigating another story. You don't have to do this, Carmen said. You've already done enough. You have your daughter. You have peace. No one would blame you for walking away. But other women are still fighting, I said. Other children are still being stolen. How can I walk away knowing what I know? Diana leaned forward on the screen. If you do this, it's going to be bigger than Marcus. We're talking about exposing a network of wealthy families, powerful institutions, systemic corruption. You'll be painting a target on your back. I looked down at my daughter, sleeping peacefully in her crib. She deserved a world where mothers could not be erased on a rich man's whim, where children were not commodities to be traded among the elite. Then we better make sure they miss, I said and inserted the flash drive. The files were devastating. Jessica had documented everything. A network of at least 30 families across the country who used variations of the Wellington method, lawyers who specialized in custody manipulation, judges who could be bought, doctors who provided convenient diagnoses. It was not just about stealing children. It was about maintaining power across generations, building dynasties on the backs of destroyed women. This is going to take years to unravel, Diana said, already making notes. We need federal involvement, congressional hearings, maybe even international cooperation. So we start, I said simply. Over the next months, we built our case carefully. Diana's reporting exposed the first cracks in the network. Federal prosecutors, emboldened by the Wellington conviction, began investigating other families. Women who had been silenced for decades started coming forward. The backlash was immediate and vicious. I received death threats. My apartment was broken into, though nothing was taken, just a message left. Stop or your daughter pays. I increased security, moved to a safer building, but I did not stop, because here's what I learned through all of this. The powerful count on our silence. They count on us being too afraid, too tired, too broken to fight back. They count on us valuing our individual safety over collective justice. But there comes a point where you realize your silence costs more than your voice ever could. 3 years after Marcus's arrest, I stood before a congressional committee. My daughter, now 3 years old, was safely with Carmen. Diana sat in the gallery, recording everything. Rebecca was scheduled to testify after me. Ms. Rodriguez, the committee chair said, you've made serious allegations about a systemic pattern of custody manipulation among wealthy families. Can you summarize your testimony? I looked at the cameras, knowing millions were watching, knowing that somewhere, women trapped in situations like mine were listening, knowing that powerful people were sweating. For decades, certain families have used mental health laws to control women and steal children. They institutionalize mothers on false pretenses, manipulate custody proceedings, and erase entire bloodlines. It's not isolated incidents. It's a coordinated system designed to maintain power and wealth across generations. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. And I have evidence. Financial records, legal documents, testimony from dozens of victims. This committee has the power to change laws that currently allow this abuse. The question is whether you have the courage to stand up to the families profiting from it. The hearing lasted 6 hours. By the end, even the skeptical committee members looked shaken. Legislation was proposed. Investigations were launched. The network Jessica had exposed began to crumble. But the real victory came 3 months later, in a small courtroom in upstate New York. We had found another victim, Margaret Sullivan, 67, had spent 40 years institutionalized after her wealthy husband declared her mentally unfit. Her children, now adults, had never known the truth about their mother. I attended her release hearing, watching as the judge overturned decades of false imprisonment. When Margaret walked out of that courtroom, her children waiting for her, I saw the beginning of real healing. "Thank you," she whispered to me as we hugged. "Thank you for not giving up." "We're not done yet," I told her. "There are more like you, and we're going to find them all." That night, I tucked my daughter into bed, reading her favorite story about a princess who saves herself. She listened with wide eyes, then asked, "Mommy, are you a princess?" I smiled. "No, baby. I'm something better. I'm a fighter. And someday, when you're ready, I'll teach you to be one too." She yawned, content with that answer, and drifted off to sleep. I stood watching her for a long time, thinking about everything we had survived: the betrayal, the theft, the fight, the victory. It had not been a fairy tale. There was no magical ending where everyone lived happily ever after. But we had something better than magic. We had truth. We had community. We had the unbreakable knowledge that we had faced the worst and survived. The fight would continue. There would always be powerful people trying to control the vulnerable. There would always be systems that protected abusers, but there would also always be women who refused to stay silent, who stood up, spoke out, and fought back. I was one of them now, and I would make sure my daughter knew she could be one too. As I turned off the light and headed to my own room, I thought about that terrified woman in the bridal suite, listening to her world collapse. If I could go back and tell her anything, it would be this: you are stronger than you know. The path ahead is darker than you can imagine, but you will walk it, you will survive, and you will use your pain to light the way for others, because that's what survivors do. We don't just save ourselves, we reach back and pull others through. The war against the Wellington Network would take years, maybe decades, but every woman we helped, every child we reunited with their mother, every corrupt system we exposed was a victory, and I had learned something crucial. Victory is not a destination. It's a choice you make every day, to stand up, to speak out, to refuse to be erased. I chose victory, again and again and again. And I was teaching my daughter to make that choice too, because the story Marcus Wellington thought he was writing, the story where I disappeared and he won, that story was over. This was my story now, and I was still writing it. One word, one fight, one freed woman at a time. So that's how my nightmare became my mission. That's how one woman's voice brought down $1 billion empire built on stolen children and destroyed mothers. But here's the thing: this story doesn't end with me. Right now, somewhere in the world, another woman is being called crazy for speaking the truth. Another mother is losing her child to a man with better lawyers. Another family is weaponizing the system against someone who trusted them. And they're counting on one thing: silence. So if this story resonated with you, if it made you angry, if it made you think twice about the systems we trust, don't let it end here. Hit that like button, not for me, but for every woman still fighting her battle in silence. Drop a comment sharing your thoughts, or even your own story if you feel safe doing so. Sometimes just knowing you're not alone changes everything. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your mother, your sister, your friend who's been called too emotional or unstable for standing up for herself. And subscribe to this channel, because I'm not done telling these stories. There are more voices that need to be heard, more truths that need to be exposed, more women who deserve to know they're not crazy, they're survivors. Remember, document everything. Trust your instinct. Find your people. And never, ever let anyone convince you that your truth doesn't matter. You are stronger than you know. Your voice has power, and together we're unstoppable. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay strong, stay safe, and keep fighting.